Media Matters hires him. Then Media Matters says his lawyers are crap, man. They stink over there. They're slow and they're expensive. They're idiots. The new legal team in April worked to reach a settlement with X's lawyers. X demanded they retract their report, pay X all the money left in the group's bank account, and shut down. Now, although you acknowledge that job loss is not normally irreparable harm, because everybody would claim that, right? If everybody who loses a job says I'm irreparably harmed, then everybody could file an injunction to stop their employer from firing them. It's ridiculous. Why do government employees get to do that? Media Matters versus Mark Elias. We've got a big division brewing in the Democratic Party, and it is delicious. You can see the New York Times is reporting on this, saying that Media Matters, you know who they are, that attack group. They clip people out of context and post it on it like they're like fascists. They love Hitler or whatever they do. And they have been very effective, I think, in a long line of campaigns and elections, but now they're struggling big time. And in their litigation with Elon Musk, they went and hired Mark Elias. And you remember him and his Democracy Docket organization and all of them, because he used to work for Hillary Clinton as part of Perkins Coie before he left that firm. Of course, Trump went after Perkins Coie with an executive order, and they were the same Democrat law firm that represented Hillary Clinton. And then the law firm Perkins Coie, where Mark Elias worked, also had Michael Sussman, who also worked for Perkins Coie, go meet with the FBI, feed them the fake Steele dossier, and essentially generate the Steele dossier, because the law firm had a third-party contractor called Fusion GPS, and Fusion GPS went and got Christopher Steele, who wrote the Trump PP tape. So that's that guy's background and lineage. And now he, in the aftermath of that scam, was hired to represent Media Matters. And now there's a falling out, and it's great. Here's what it looks like. Media Matters, you know who they are. A nonprofit group that played a key role in liberal politics for a long time is now struggling to withstand months of legal assaults by Trump's allies, aka Elon Musk, offering a glimpse of what might be in store for even well-funded targets of actual litigation. The organization, which is funded by some of the Democratic's biggest donors, is now $15 million in legal fees owed over the past 20 months to defend itself against lawsuits by Elon Musk. How do they like it? In addition to investigations by Trump and the FTC and Republican state attorneys general, who are all investigating them for serious problems. Now, the group Media Matters has slashed the size of its staff and scrambled to raise even more cash from skittish donors, according to documents and interviews with 11 people, as the organization fights to survive. Now, that might not be enough. Media Matters tried to settle with Musk by offering concessions, but the sides were far apart and the talks fizzled. Even when the group has triumphed in court, Mr. Musk has appealed or just filed a new case elsewhere. Oh gosh, man, it's good to be a billionaire. That sounds awesome. Just like, I don't care. Just do it again. As the last resort, it is considered shuttering, according to interviews. Media Matters, bye-bye. Now, publicly, the group has said that it has no plans to close and that it is committed to defending itself. Unlike some major media entities that have recently caved, we're gonna fight. We're gonna continue to carry out our mission. All right, good luck. Even as the battle continues, Media Matters stands as an example of how legal warfare is a problem. Give me a break. They indicted Trump 4 times. They tried to throw him off the ballot. Then they tried to bankrupt him in Tishy's court. So spare me. The group says it dialed back its criticism of Musk after like, oh crap, we can't just keep making things up about people. They also have been frozen out by some allies, and they face plummeting staff morale, rising infighting, and security concerns. Now, all that has proved quite a challenge for this group. They raised, look at these numbers, man, $250 million in the 2 decades between 2003 and 2023, establishing itself as a major force in Democratic politics and undermining the right wing. The bleak outlook now facing the group underscores the serious harms that can be inflicted when Trump goes hard. It leaves targets facing a tricky choice. Should we spend or fight back? ABC News and CBS News are settling, and law firms are also doing the same. In fact, when Harvard refused to comply, boom, $2.2 billion was withheld. And donors are also freaking out. Media Matters has been defending itself on more legal fronts and for longer than most of targets of Trump allies, because their identity is linked to fighting Republicans. It also is particularly susceptible because of its dependence on maintaining the benefits of rich Democrats. Founded in 2003 by David Brock as a self-described right-wing hitman who switched sides to become an enforcer for Democrats, Media Matters set out to neutralize Republicans, and they have done a pretty, I think, successful job of that as an entity until Trump came along. Media Matters is made up of 2 separate nonprofits registered under the tax code episode, some donors have revealed through news reports that other donors are maybe bailing out. Now, the battle comes between Musk. Musk purchased Twitter and had begun removing content. They zoomed in on him. In November, Media Matters published a research piece showing that ads on X were anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi, but that was basically a fake story. The report, along with the post, contributed to an exodus. Then X sued and saying that they had manipulated the site and they were doing something weird where they were just kind of like following one person so it only show up in their feed and like blocking things and like, weird, look what came across my feed. You're like, you're searching for Nazis without really searching for Nazis. So obviously. So in December, in a live stream, Musk said, we're going to sue him. And boom, he came after them. You remember that. We were like, oh, we'll see what happens. The suit was quickly followed by investigations. Media Matters also sued. And so this has been brewing. Now, this is where it gets good because then we've got the lawyers who are now about to bail. And Mark Elias is saying, give me my money, or his law firm. Now, after Mr. Trump retook the White House, Brock was brought back into Media Matters, but he clashed and now he's been sidelined. Some others involved in the group wanted it to consider declaring bankruptcy or just settle with Elon because he's going to obliterate us. X filed lawsuits even against them in other countries. He's like, I'll see you in Singapore. We'll see you in Ireland and we'll just keep going. So we'll see you out there. In early February, frustrated by what some of Media Matters saw as the high cost and slow pace of their lawyers at the Elias Law Group. Okay. So they hired him. So he left Perkins Coie. He's like, I can make way more money on my own. So he leaves, starts his own firm. Media Matters hires him. Then Media Matters says his lawyers are crap, man. They stink over there. They're slow and they're expensive. They're idiots. The advocacy group began transitioning the X cases to different law firms. Okay. There's trouble in paradise and Democrat hellscapes. An Elias lawyer notified the group that it owed $4 million. They're like, oh, you're moving your cases to another law firm? We're not going to be billing you for those? Well, just so you know, we've done an accounting, Media Matters. Here's your invoice, $4 million. Huh? We understand, they said. Somebody wrote this. Ezra Reese, the chair of Mark Elias's political law group, he wrote in an email to Media Matters, two people, and their lead fundraiser. He says, well, talking about Elon, we understand this case has been and remains very difficult for everyone involved, as that was Musk's intention when he brought it. And so you owe $4 million, said Mr. Reese, but we can wipe away about half of that $4 million of the unpaid as long as you give us $2.25 million within 1 week. We need 2.25 in 1 week, or if you do not want to make that payment plan with us, said Mark Elias's law firm towards Media Matters, which is great. Reese wrote his firm would expect full payment of the original amount, which would be $4 million. So 2.25 or else it's 4. You got 1 week to decide, let us know. Or else we're going to go pens down, is what he wrote in quotes, and take steps to withdraw from the case by the end of the month. So now I'm wondering if Media Matters gave these emails to New York Times just so they could smear Mark Elias or, rub his nose in it. And they said, we're going to go pens down. Now, the ultimatum did not sit well inside Media Matters. Somebody, Miss Bonner, responded to Mark Elias's team. She wrote this with 2 exclamation points. Miss Bonner's not happy. Says, you must be kidding. This is how you treat people who have been clients for 16 years and are friends? Yeah, it's Democrats, man. They're lunatics. They'll throw their grandmother out. If she's like, well, she's not wearing a mask. Well, like, she's your mother. Yeah, but she could be infected. And so she has to go over the bridge and they just throw her right over the bridge. They're Democrats. They don't care. They're lunatics. So Mark Elias is like, you're dead to me. Give me my money or else. In a statement to the New York Times, Mark Elias's law firm, so somebody leaked the emails to the Times. They reached out to Mark's people. Mark Reese defended the firm's work. He says, we're great lawyers. We're not slow and dumb. We helped with a lot of matters, including efforts to shut down the state attorney's things. And these are victories. And they're going to help Media Matters stand up to the right wing. Now, while Elias Law Group continued to represent Media Matters, the advocacy group shifted much of its defense to other law firms. The new legal team in April worked to reach a settlement with X's lawyers. X demanded they retract their report, pay X all the money left in the group's bank account, and shut down. Yeah, no, we're happy to settle with you. You want to hear our terms? Perfect. Full retraction, every single dollar you have, and then a total dissolution of your business entity. How's that for a settlement? Let us know what you think. We'll be here. Media Matters proposed explaining its methodology in its report, saying, well, how about we just explain ourselves? We don't care about your explanation. Close up now. In May, the FTC launched an investigation into whether man, Elon is pissed. That is great. Into whether Media Matters and roughly a dozen other watchdog groups illegally colluded to dissuade companies. Man, I feel that, man. I get so tired of all the anti-Semitism crap. It's like everybody's anti-Semitic. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And so Elon, they call him anti-Semitic. He's going to bankrupt your whole company. You're just gone. So thanks for that. What'd you call me? You're dead now. You're gone. It's over. So it's just like, could you imagine doing that? Beautiful thing. I love this country. Inside Media Matters, the FTC investigation was seen as an example of the Trump administration doing the bidding of Musk and blah, blah, blah. In June, Media Matters sued to halt, and now they're free. They've got complete torrent of concern, threatening messages, which of course we never endorse and are criminal in most cases, requiring the group to hire an outside security firm. All that's not appropriate, but it's probably coming from Democrats, man. The memo, prepared for the group's lawyers and reviewed by the Times, indicated that allies of the group have pulled back communications. Nobody wants to work with them anymore. Mr. Mandel, in a meeting with Connecticut this spring, suggested people raising money for Media Matters should consider shutting down. They're all tainted. Yeah, maybe they should stop calling people anti-Semites and faking stories as they've been doing for years. And now the consequences are here and the chickens are coming home to roost. Now, simultaneously with all of this, we see the Democrats are losing even more funding and more court cases. This came down out of the District of Columbia in the case of these USAID organizations against the president. American Foreign Service Association, meaningless. Personal Services Contractor Association, okay, meaningless. Entities set up to represent government bureaucrats. Here is what the judge said in another victory for the president. Across these two cases, 4 organizations sued. They said Trump can't dismantle USAID. 3 represent employees or contractors. The American Foreign Service represents foreign service members, so they've got basically unions. The American Federation of Government Employees represents USAID civil servants, and the PSA represents personal service contractors, okay? So 3 separate, basically, unions who are representing all of these government public civil servants, great, who say how important they are to all of our lives. The 4th organization is called Oxfam. It's a humanitarian group, and it sees its mission as combating global poverty, inequality, and injustice, which is just incredible. It's like, if that's your mission, you can just say you need billions of dollars because that's a big problem. Now, each organization alleges that the government's actions taken with respect violate the Constitution, and the court says, no, thanks for suing, but get out. We cannot reach the merits of any of your allegations because we don't have jurisdiction over you people. You can't just sue to stop an executive order from the president because your employees are going to get hurt. We lack jurisdiction over your claims, and so President Trump's motion to dismiss is granted. Tremendous victory. Now, we know what USAID is, now shuttered entity, and they have recently appropriated a bunch of funds. Rubio said, you're gone. Trump appointed Rubio as acting administrator. There was a reorganization. They concluded the first phase, and a lot has happened, and people are going to be fired. Okay, effective July 1, you're gone. So they sued. They said, you can't do that. They said, well, we actually have not shut the agency down. We've retained a bunch of things. There's like $78 billion in value here. And so they sued. They said, you can't do that. Trump is illegal. The lower court denied their motion for an injunction. Said, well, your members did not in fact face a risk of irreparable harm. These were just employment injuries, okay? You're not entitled to employment off the federal teat for your entire lives. Now all this brings us here before us. The government moved for a dismissal. The public civil servants grifting off America are moving to keep the case on, and the court is going to give us some analysis. The central question in these cases is, can I even hear your claim? As we're going to explain, we don't. I can't hear your claim. Each of these organizations is seeking relief from what are quintessentially personnel-related injuries. So if you're upset about the fact that you got fired, then you can go through the employment mechanisms to challenge that Congress has created by statute. You say that there has been irreparable injury. We've been battling these injunctions forever. And what is the injury to you people? You say that termination notices are the injury. Now, although you acknowledge that job loss is not normally irreparable harm, because everybody would claim that, right? If everybody who loses a job says I'm irreparably harmed, then everybody could file an injunction to stop their employer from firing them. It's ridiculous. Why do government employees get to do that? It contends that this is not a normal situation because we're the biggest employer in humanitarian aid. So they're essential because they're public servants and provides essential funding for almost all other employers in the sector. So thus, in their estimation, our entire industry is going to disintegrate. Yes, we know that's not irreparable harm. That's a policy decision. To be sure, in some circumstances, massive economic disruption is going to happen. That's irreparable harm, they say. But it's not. It is not provided, for instance, any declaration. You haven't even told us any of your bureaucrats have been unable to find work. Like there's no declarations like this person is harmed. Well, how? Because he might not be able to find a job. Well, has he been unable to? Well, I don't know. Did you ask them? Not really. From other humanitarian aid, so like, why can't they go work for the private sector? Go get a charity. There's such amazing people and tremendous civil servants who deserve our never-ending money for the rest of their lives indefinitely without any consequence to the federal budget. They should be able to go get a job in the private sector and lead the company into glory, right? The PSA next makes its argument about irreparable harm. It says, there's going to be a lot of harm in the world. Global partnerships are going to be dismantled. We know we don't want to support the global partnership with the AIDS opera singers in Peru. The court noted when denying the TRO that such generalized allegations are insufficient. You can't just say, I got fired. You can't do that because I'm a civil servant. So in the public interest, as the courts have explained in denying this, the government, they've identified plausible interests. Okay, they said, well, it could have consequences. Although the facts on the ground have shifted somewhat. On the one hand, they claim that without relief, USAID is going to cease to exist. They say decades of efforts to project soft power will be wasted. That's all. They should have won the election, made those arguments. That's their policy decision. They're not the president. On the other hand, the government says, no, we're actually going to prevent foreign aid programs from participating in anti-American projects throughout the world, like trans operas. As the court has said before, we can't weigh these against each other. What the court is ultimately most moved by then is just jurisdiction. What are the likely harms and how can that be addressed? Because the executive branch has a significant interest in maintaining control over personnel matters. Now, while you have not demonstrated any irremediable injury and where Congress has limited personnel claims, right? So there's actually another channel for them to go file their employment claims. They have it. They can file a claim. Plenty of due process for fired federal employees. Go make your claim somewhere else, but stop suing to stop Trump from making policy changes that you're unhappy with. They even have Court of Federal Claims. Go over there. The court concludes that neither the equities nor the public interest favors money going out to USAID. This is a Trump judge, Carl J. Nichols. For the foregoing reasons, the court will deny the motion for summary judgment and hand a victory back to America and to the president, and a loss to the USAID civil servant bureaucrats. They can go find new jobs in the private sector and work on their trans operas there.